deal was signed this morning between the US, the UK and Australia. And it is the start of a new partnership. It is seen as countering China's aggression. Is this the pivot that Barack Obama promised but didn't end up doing? Let's go to Michael Ware, our Sky News US contributor. Michael, from your view this morning, how does this look, this announcement this morning?
Well, I think the British Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, put it best in the joint briefing, where he described this as a momentous decision, because that's truly what it is. All three of these countries are well aware that by doing this, they're playing for high stakes, and this has serious consequences. This really is a watershed moment. So, yes, this does begin to fulfill the American promise of the pivot to Asia. And this is a particularly daring step for Australia, because any application of nuclear power can be politically tricky. And we've seen that time and again in Australia. But also, this clearly antagonises our biggest buyer on the international market, which is China. But by the same token, you could argue that China gave us the room to arrive at this decision, because they've been nudging us towards something like this, with Beijing attacking us with tariffs on coal and beef and barley and wine. But make no mistake, this is a massive turning point.
Yeah, it certainly is. And Australia couldn't have done it without the backing of the UK and the US. Of course, geographically and, as you point out, economically, it is so important for Australia to counter China's rise. It's done so, or tried to do so, in the Pacific. China has been very instrumental and I think somewhat successful with its soft power in places like the Pacific. But this morning, I got the sense, Michael, that this first announcement in this new partnership, it was all about Australia.
Well, it was. I mean, this definitely puts Australia front and centre. This is a very bold statement by these three ally partners who are shaping up against China. So make no mistake about that. And look, this does bring us into a very small club of nations, and no one's going to miss that fact. Look, first of all, if you want to gauge a sense of the importance of this with regard to Australia, America has only ever shared nuclear-powered propulsion technology with one other country on the planet, and that's the UK itself. And we now join a list of countries with nuclear submarine programs, from America to the UK to France to Russia to China to India, and believe it or not, Brazil. And you heard in President Biden's statement, he really stressed two key points. One is that these subs that will be nuclear powered, but they will be conventionally armed. And the other thing he stressed is that this still fits within the United States obligations under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. They're not sharing nuclear weapon technology with us. They're sharing nuclear propulsion technology with us. So this is an extraordinarily big deal for the United States and the United Kingdom to be sharing this kind of a weapons platform with us.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right to make that point and clarify that distinctions between a nuclear-powered submarine and nuclear weapons. It's absolutely not the latter. As we sit here this morning discussing, it strikes me, Michael, that, you know, we're less than a month after that withdrawal from Afghanistan. It seems a huge pivot, which makes me question about what the future of warfare looks like. I mean, submarines weren't a huge feature of the Afghanistan war over the last 2 decades. And I'm not suggesting that we're, heading into war with China here, but as you look at countries prepare for the next conflict, it's very different from the last 50 or so years, isn't it?
Yes, look, heaven forbid there is an open conflict with China, because that's a nightmare scenario that I really don't want to have to contemplate. I mean, for example, if China did invade Taiwan, the retaking of that island nation would look far worse than the World War II Battle of Iwo Jima, because it will include nuclear weapons and all sorts of other technology that we didn't have back in that conflict in the middle of the 20th century. And look, you might think that subs didn't play a great part in a war in Afghanistan in a landlocked country, but subs were still vital to that operation, as they have been to most operations on the global stage, in providing support and the ability to launch missiles. So, and look, there's some tremendous advantages to nuclear-powered subs to the conventional subs that we currently have. I mean, these subs virtually never have to be refueled. The current generation of nuclear-powered submarines don't need to be refueled once in their entire lifespan of 25 years. They can travel at top speed underwater for much longer, and they can virtually stay submerged indefinitely. So this really changes the calculus for Australia strategically, and therefore changes the calculus for our adversaries in the region as well.
Michael, always great to talk to you. Thanks so much for your insights this morning. We'll speak soon.